of the C build video. Just going to go over my bars real quick and my equipment and briefly go over some champion points. Try to give some brief descriptions and try to keep it relatively short and sweet. I can be a little long-winded. So first up for abilities, I'm running Lotus Fan, Concealed Weapon, Sap Essence, Mass Hysteria, and Dark Cloak with Soul Harvest as an ultimate. Uh, this bar really hasn't changed in quite a while since I've been PvPing on a Magicka Nightblade. I mean, it's just, those abilities just pair well, very, very well together. Um, Lotus Fan and Sap Essence are just absolutely nightmares for Nightblades. Stamina or, Magicka, they just can't use their cloak too much as long as you're keeping on top of them and keeping up the pressure. And Fear is just, a ridiculous, unblockable CC. Uh, Next, on my other bar, I've got Crippling Grasp, Proxy Debt, Healing Ward, Double Take, Shadow Image, and I'm currently running Devouring Swarm. Uh, Crippling Grasp and Shadow Image are kind of skills that you can swap out pretty easily with other things. It's just, I like having a ranged DPS other than my staff, and I don't want a spammable. I don't want two of them. Concealed Weapons, my real spammable. I don't want to be sometimes melee, sometimes range. I chose melee, so I just stick to that. And I do need something for supplemental DPS, and a dot kind of goes into that pretty well, as well as a ranged ability. So Crippling Grasp is nice. It's also a siphoning ability, so each time I cast it and hit something with it, I get ultimate back. So it's a good ultimate generator. And then Shadow Image, it's kind of gimmicky. It's got a MAME to it, but the main thing is just the being able to teleport to the shade. And so it's very useful. It's hard to use. A lot of players who are new to it tend to forget to put down their shade. But once you're used to it, once you're good at it, it's a very useful escape ability as well as just battlefield mobility. Um, and then the MAME is really nothing to sneer at. It's 15% less damage that you're taking, so it's huge. And then Devouring Swarm could easily be changed for Soul Tether. I just happen to be a vampire. I wouldn't say that being a vampire is required for a Magicka Nightblade. My AD tune does pretty well without being a vamp. But there are some nice advantages to being a vampire. Dark Cloak could easily be swapped for Shadowy Disguise, the other morph. I just haven't changed it. I'm just a little lazy on that point. Gear, right now I'm running Kagranax Hope and 3 pieces of Torig's Pact on my main DPS bar and 2 pieces of Torig's Pact on my Resto bar, 1 piece of Molag Kina, 3 pieces of Willpower. If I could do it over again, I would swap out Torig's Pact for 3 pieces of Vicious Death. I would prefer, for me personally, the nearly 1,000 max Magicka as opposed to the 1,000 max health. The max Magicka would give me a little bit better shield and a little bit more damage and a better Magicka pool, whereas the health, it's may or may not be useful. I'm undecided on it. It's not such a huge difference that I'm willing to swap it now, but it would be something to think about for your build if you haven't quite golded all of your equipment yet. Uh, so champ points will go by constellation here. The tower, I've got 57 into Magician. I may end up swapping those towards the Magicka Regen one, but for now, there they are to try to reduce the cost of my skills. I've got 70 into Arcanist. As you can see, I could put quite a few in the reduced cost into this to try to max it at 25%. Tumbling. This may be a little bit different, but I know that when I run out of stamina, I'm pretty much a sitting duck. I can't shield myself anymore. So I put a lot into tumbling to try to be able to break free as often as possible, as needed. So uh, it is very useful. I would could probably put some of it into Befoul because I'm running Soul Harvest. Um, just haven't quite done that yet. I seem to be doing okay without needing more anything into Befoul. But so for the green tree, I would probably sacrifice a little bit in my reduced cost constellation for more Magicka regen, possibly some into Befoul. But for now, I'm going to leave it as is. It seems to be working pretty. All right, so on my blue constellations, I've got 60 into Spell Erosion, 67 into Elemental Expert. I like to keep these relatively close, only because they both contribute directly to front load damage. I mean, the less that they can resist my damage, the more damage I'll do, the more front load damage I do. Of course, the more damage I do. Elfborn, this was a change recent with the last patch that I really don't go for crits at all. Um, my crit chance is low, so I don't really bother with Elfborn. I think doing more damage, for every ability rather than the ones that crit is the way to go for PvP. PvE is a completely different scenario. You would want this, increased quite a bit, at least 10%. But for PvP, uh, that's pretty much where I've got my point. I've also got a lot into Shattering Blows to counter shields, particularly for Sorks and other classes that are pop and healing ward. This may or may not be as useful. So this may be an area where I could improve. I could probably take most of the points in Shattering Blows and increase critical, but or even into Thaumaturge because I do use a few dots these days. But um, for now, they're in Shattering Blows, and I seem to do very, very well against other Magicka Nightblades. I do very well against Sorks, which I didn't used to. So Shattering Blows is very, very useful. Um, it's just class specific. It's not going to help me against Stam Nightblades, but uh, you know the meta seemed to be changing so that Stam builds were going to be using shields as well, but I don't really see that as often. So this could be an area to improve. Nothing into the ritual. So for my red tree, you definitely want points into resistant to reduce the amount of damage you're taking from criticals, especially where I've got a lot of points invested into or traits on divines instead of impen. I run a little bit, but not a whole lot. I really trust that my shield is going to be protecting me in the event that I'm taking a lot of damage. Um, so this may or may not be something I could lower, but at the moment I'm going to leave it as is. Spell shield, I didn't bother putting much into this because I'm a Breton and I'm wearing 7 pieces of light armor, so spell damage against me is pretty well mitigated to begin with. Uh, so because I'm pretty well shielded against magic damage, a lot of points are being spent in trying to reduce the amount of physical damage that I take, because being in light armor is kind of a weakness to physical damage in particular. And then I got some points into Elemental Defender just, to try to help me against some of the other magic classes. And then I've got 25 points into Quick Recovery and 25 into Bastion. So Bastion for a better shield and Quick Recovery for healing myself more effectively. So I'm really kind of banking my defense on my shield, not so much on actually just sitting there and taking it. So that's kind of just a build philosophy. You could reduce your shield or quick recovery and bastion to take less damage overall, but the shield does do better when you're taking more damage. So I take a lot of damage, and I pop a huge shield, and then I go back on the offense. So it's kind of how my build works. So I'm running Orzaga's Frothgar for max health and Magicka recovery. And for my Mundus, I'm using the Apprentice for max spell power. So I'm running unbuffed, about 3,000 spell damage. I'm sitting at close to 1900 Magicka recovery, and that seems to do pretty well. I'm able to do very good damage, and I'm not running out of Magicka nearly as often as I used to be. Uh, I would say for starting your build, you should shoot for about 1500 Magicka recovery. You will run out in longer fights, but you should have enough sustain that you're not, constantly running out. Um, Above 1800, you start running out of Magicka a lot less. You don't need to swap over to your Resto Bar and channel a heavy attack to continue the fight, which is good. I mean, if you're doing that, you're giving your enemy a breather, and you don't want to do that. You want to do that as little as possible. So, uh, where I'm at right now for Magicka recovery, it allows me to sustain most fights. I don't have to worry too much about my Magicka, and that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them.